in the spotlight, sitting down with the talented Alan Berg, reader, writer, performer, speaker, you name it. And I have read, I'm sorry to say not all, but most of your books. And you were in my head, just so that we're clear, because I listened to the Audible versions of your books. And I'm so thrilled that you've now moved to podcasting. I mean, wow, because you were already in my head for the books, but now you're doing podcasting. And by the way, you sell the books, you give the podcasts away, and you're giving it all away, brother. I mean, the first episode, I'm already, because I went back and listened to everything up to today. Mm-hmm. The first episode alone would take me a month to, take that all apart and implement all of that into my business. I mean, it's just outstanding content, and I'm so excited. Alan, welcome to the Spotlight.
Thank you, Scott. Always great to talk to you, and whether we're on mic or off mic, it's always a pleasure. It's a machaya, as they say.
Or a simcha if you're running, elevate.
There we could.
So books, stage, podcasts. Let's start with stage. Are we getting back?
Yes. So I am cautiously optimistic. My wife and I have both been vaccinated. So as we say, we got our shots, so we can be around the pack now. But we're cautiously optimistic because we live in New Jersey, so we're still wearing masks and things aren't open as much, and we're being cautious because we were able to get vaccinated earlier because of some pre-existing health conditions, which is not a good thing, but good when you want to get further up on the vaccine shot line. So I have my first conferences scheduled to go to in June. And as a speaker, listen, if I'm on stage, I am quite socially distant from the audience. But that's not my way. It's not your way. We're the people out in the crowd talking to people and mingling. And I have a booth and I'm selling my services and my books and things like that. So we're cautiously optimistic. So I have the Marquee Show in June. I have Cater Source and the special event in Miami in July. Speaking at an event in August in Oklahoma City that's been postponed from last year. And then October, fingers crossed, I'm supposed to be in Paris, France, that we were supposed to be last October.
Très bien,
so
monsieur.
I have, yes, so j'apprends de français. I'm doing my lessons in French. So je voudrais parler français when I get to France, I would like to be able to get off the plane and speak. I already taught myself Spanish, as you know, because we've spoken Spanish together. And I've presented in 5 countries in Spanish, not including Instagram lives and things in Spanglish that I've also done. So stage, I think, is definitely coming back. I think there's a need for people to want to get in person. They're kind of zoomed out a little bit as they watch us here on Zoom. But there's also, just the caution. I was asked the other day about Wedding MBA, and I'm planning on going, presenting 4 times there as usual, doing a mastermind day. I think my personal opinion is that the attendance will be lower than 2019, which was a high watermark for them, which I expect. But I still think that there'll be a couple of thousand people at least. They're going to just want to go. They're going to want to get out there. That's my feeling. I want to get out there. I will say this: 2019, I was away more than I'd ever been. I was away 178 nights. I flew over 140,000 miles just on United Airlines. I don't know that I want to get back to that, although it was my best money year ever. I was also in some great places. I was in Australia twice, and I was in England, and I was in Guatemala and things like that. So I think I'm going to get back on the road. I don't know if I'm going to do like I used to do, partly because some countries don't want us. Right. So we just can't go. But it would be nice. It would be nice to get back out there. There is that connection. I think you know this, Scott. I've been doing webinars since 2007. You had to explain to somebody in 2007 what a webinar was. Mm-hmm. And how does this work? And what do I do? And the technology, they didn't understand that. I think that the one thing the last year has taught us is you can make a connection through remote, through Zoom and things like that. I've been doing consultations for the last 10 years remotely. So this is nothing new to me except not going to the airport every week or so. That's about the only thing that's new. But, presentations live, there is something different about it. I've said this, I don't know if we've ever talked specifically about this. There are a lot of people that get on stage because they look and say, hey, that looks like fun, that I could be seen that way. I want to get on stage. which unfortunately or fortunately, some of the platforms now with Zoom or with Clubhouse or whatever, some people have been able to get on stages, so to speak, virtual stages that haven't before. To me, a true subject matter expert, as a professional speaker, and I'm a member of the National Speakers Association, which is actually based right there in Arizona. I'm also one of 37 global speaking fellows in the world. So speaking for me is a career. I have some of the highest, designations that you can have for that. I work on the craft of speaking even to this day. A true subject matter expert who speaks is someone who can get off the stage and continue the conversation they started on the stage with no notes, no slides. They don't need anything else because they are the expert. Just because you're an expert doesn't mean you can get that message across to people. And that's where being a professional speaker is. I work on the craft of speaking as well as on my subjects, right? The subject matter. And this is really no different than somebody in the wedding or event industry, that if you're a photographer, you work on the craft of photography, but you also need to work on your interpersonal skills. You also need to work on your customer skills. You also need to work on your sales skills. You need to work on your business. There are other skills. People all the time say to me, oh, I saw you on stage. That was great. I want to be able to do that. I said, okay, are you willing to put in the work? That's the thing. We talked about this with DJs. Ron Ruth, a friend of both of ours, Ron and I were sitting having barbecue one day in Kansas City, because you do, in a gas station, because you do. And it was great barbecue, by the way. And he got an email that said, how much is your 5-hour package? And he's like, oh, here's another one, 5-hour package. And I said, Ron, have you ever sat down and figured out how much time you invest? Because he's was doing grand entrances and all the very elaborate things that justified the price he was charging. And we figured it's somewhere between 30, 35, 40 hours, right? 5 hours the customer's going to see, and all that other prep time, right?
Right.
So I said, what if you replied back and said, thanks so much for inquiring. I would love to make your wedding amazing the way that you've read in the reviews. I don't have a 5-hour package, but I would love to tell you about the 35 hours that I'm going to invest in making your wedding amazing. And have them go, what? Like Scooby-Doo, what? Because when I do a speech, you see the 45 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever it is. You don't see the 30 hours that went into that.
Right.
But just like watching Michael Jordan make it look easy took so much work, or watching Yo-Yo Ma play the cello, and it took so much work, you don't see that. Yeah, you see me on stage and you go, wow, that just looks so easy. Yeah, it's so hard to make it look easy.
When it's done right, it looks easy.
Right. And that's the thing for me. I'm also very comfortable in what I do, that you and I could be talking. We've done this. We've been in Vegas talking off stage. And then it's time for me to get on stage, and I just walk on stage and continue what I was doing, because I'm having a conversation with the audience. I can do that and not make it about me. I can make it about you and make it about the takeaways. And that's, again, it's a skill that requires work. I study speakers. I said to somebody recently who wants to get into speaking, I said, what if you were to watch really good speakers, or just speakers in general, and turn the sound off? Watch the body language. Watch how they interact with the audience. Watch, what are they, are they standing in one place? Are they hidden behind a podium? I hate podiums, right? That's a barrier between me and the audience. I was in Mexico one time, and they had this elaborate floral display at the front of the middle of the stage, right? At the very edge of the front of the middle of the stage. So you're going to have to walk behind this. And I told them, I said, before I go on, you need to move it. Just give me 3 feet. Just give me so I can walk in front of it instead of behind it, because I don't want to have that barrier with the audience. And I've moved tables on stages and so all kinds of crazy stuff. So I said, watch people with the sound off. I said, then just listen. Close your eyes and listen. What do you hear? How are they interacting? Are they giving any breaks? Are they giving people a chance to absorb what you just said? I remember hearing this one speaker, and he had a kind of a rap beat poet patter to his thing, but it came at you like a machine gun, and there was no break. It was too much. And then every once in a while he stopped. I was like, oh, now I can feel the power of what you just said. And I remember being taught that, the power of the pause. That pause. My most powerful pause moment, Scott, I was in Chicago on a stage, and it was a theater type. So it was, big comfy seats going, way up like it was a regular theater for like plays and stuff. And I was talking, and I paused. And I literally saw people lean in. They wanted to see what was coming next.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power. And this is about the craft of it. So for stage, I can do that somewhat in Zoom. And I've done literally, I have master classes and workshops, 5-hour, 6-hour Zoom calls with people.
That's a long call.
But I'm able to keep their attention. I'm able to keep them engaged. I'm able to do that because, again, it's a skill.
I always like to say there's a difference between knowing and then the talent of being able to present it, and in an understandable manner that people can, take it in. And that's your talent, no doubt.
Thank you.
But not just on stage. You are really a great writer. Your content is not only full of takeaways, as you described, but easily approachable. You write at a level that, and I'm not talking about dumbing down the audience, but it's comfortable. It's accessible. Yes,
it's conversational.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I do would make my 9th grade English teacher probably twitch. But I write the way I speak. And I tell people, if you don't like what you're hearing right now, this tone, this voice, don't read my books, because they're written this way. And doing audiobooks for me, my own books, was really pretty easy because I wrote them the way I speak. So I didn't have to practice. I literally, no joke, went into my studio, which is called Andover Textile Studios. And I might have shown you a picture of this. So I live on a street, Andover Drive. And I went in my closet where the textiles are. So Andover Textile Studios. And I took my iPad so you wouldn't hear pages turning. I had a mic on a boom so I could stand because I wanted you to get full voice. So there's the mic on the stand. There's the iPad. There's my iPhone doing the recording and an app on the iPhone. And I just read the book. And interestingly, when you don't know what you don't know, and then all of a sudden you know it. So the first audiobook I did, of course, took the longest. The last one I did, which is my latest book called Wit, Wisdom, and the Business of Weddings, I had somebody say to me, Alan, I love your books. I always do them on audio. I love hearing you read them. He said, I noticed that there were more verbal miscues in this book. And I didn't know if that was on purpose or if you just rushed to get it out or whatever. I said, was it a problem? He goes, no, it sounded very natural, but I just noticed it wasn't as, not perfect, because I don't want to use that
tight
word, but it wasn't as tight, right? And I said, I left them in. The first book, I cut all that stuff out. And the last one, I left it in because it was just me talking to you. And I don't speak perfectly, and I stumble, and that's okay. So the only time I cut is when I really flubbed.
But it is about having a relationship with your reader,
yes,
that you take them along. So if they've read previous books that you've done, then they're going to have that sense of, I'm at home, I'm comfortable with Alan.
And that, which leads into the podcast. The podcast is just a conversation. It's just me having to talk with the audience.
It's so good, Alan.
Thank you.
I mean, wow. It is just jam-packed with information that will make your business successful. It is truly about wedding business solutions.
That's my company name, but people have known me as Alan Berg and alanberg.com. And even though behind the scenes it's Wedding Business Solutions, I hadn't really pushed that brand. But more recently, especially with COVID, I've been pushing that more because that's what I do. It's about wedding businesses. Although and I know, if you listen to those, the tips, they apply to other businesses. I had a consult the other day with a company that's a software company.
Oh.
But somebody that works for them is president of the Canadian Professional DJ Association, Debbie Russell.
Mm-hmm.
And Debbie works for this company. That's her day job. And she asked me, she said, hey, do you work with companies outside the industry? I said, yeah, when I'm asked. I don't look for it, but when I'm asked. And she said, because we're doing some email stuff and you helped me so much with my business with that. I was wondering if you think you could help us. And I said, tell me what you need. And I did. And I had this call and the same thing. Just, I'm telling them the same tips.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just turning the knobs differently because their client is a different client. Therefore, we have to message this differently. But it was the same basic thing, which is don't sell what you do, sell the results of what you do to that person. And I always use the analogy, nobody walks into the hardware store or Home Depot to buy a drill bit because they want a drill bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? They walk in to buy a drill bit so they can make a hole, but they make a hole so they can put something on the hole or in the hole, and then so on down the line. So no one hires a DJ because they want a DJ to be there.
Right.
Right? They hire a DJ because they're bringing their friends and family together to celebrate, and they want them to hear every word of the vows. They want them to have the right background music at the cocktails. They want to have the announcements done the right way, in a way that people have never heard. They want their cake cutting and their first dance, and then they want to have a party with their friends and family to celebrate maybe the first, but certainly the last time they're ever getting married. Right? That's why they need a DJ.
And the analogy I like to use is, don't tell me how the clock is made, just tell me what time it is.
Right? Right? And listen, if somebody wants to know how the clock is made, tell them. And that'll be 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 1,000. And it's like sausages, right? You don't necessarily want to know how the sausage is made.
Don't go any further.
Don't tell me anymore. But it's funny because I do this with the caterers. Caterers, you go to caterer websites, they're showing you food pictures. Yeah. There's menus. There's all that kind of stuff. So I had a caterer the other day I was working with, and I said, let me ask you a question. If we were going to go out to dinner, would we first choose the dish we're going to eat or the restaurant? Right? In most cases, you choose the restaurant.
Right.
Now, sometimes you're like, Alan, I'm going to take you here for the fried chicken. I'm going to take you over there. I said, okay, but what if we went in there and we intended to have that dish, and the waitress or waiter comes over and says, we have some specials today. Would you like to hear them?
Right.
You're still going to hear them. And you might not get that dish because you'd be like, ooh, I didn't know you had that. But you still chose the restaurant. So why, I say to my caterer clients, why are you pushing the food and not the caterer? Push the caterer. So and then the food. It's like a DJ telling me I have 100,000 songs. Great. How many are you going to play at my wedding? Right?
40.
Right? And photographers, again, I don't care what kind of camera. I love doing this to photographers. I was actually in Bangalore, India, and there were 300 or 400 wedding photographers at this conference. And I said, so how many of you use Canon? And hands go up. And how many of you use Nikon? And hands go up. And I said, how many of you use Sony? And hands go up. And I said, nobody cares. And they all start laughing. They all start laughing. And I said, but it's true. I said, now, if somebody says, so, hey, do you use Canon or Nikon? Maybe they're an amateur photographer or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's not in the picture here, but over my shoulder is my DSLR camera that I make some videos with. And it's a Canon. And we're a Canon family. Why? Because I'm not going to tell you how long ago when I was shooting with a Canon film camera. When I was in college, I was on the newspaper and the yearbook staff, and I was shooting with film on a Canon camera, a completely manual Canon camera, right? No autofocus, no auto anything. So then when I got my next camera, it was Canon, so the lenses would fit, right? And the next one was Canon because the lenses would fit. And it just that's what happened is we had a box of Canon cameras, so we had a box of Canon lenses there. So I have a Canon camera. Could I use a Nikon? Sure, I could. I met a photographer at this conference in India from Spain who only shoots on her iPhone. Professional photographer, amazing pictures, wow. Which only proves, right? It's not, what is it? It's not the clubs, it's the golfer, right?
Right. It's not the equipment,
right?
It's the talent that's wielding it,
right? And that's the thing is, being able to take great pictures makes you a good photographer, but it doesn't make you a wedding photographer. Being able to play music can make you a great DJ, but it doesn't make you a great wedding DJ. There's a different skill. I always say that videographer, like John Goolsby, John Goolsby, right?
Of course, great videographer. Yeah.
So,
Godfather video.
And again, good friend of mine. His talent is partly in the technical skills of shooting. and editing. But a lot of it is knowing where to be looking, right?
Yes.
You can't capture the image if you weren't looking at it.
Hmm.
He told me a story one time. He did a college homecoming, and they hired him the next year to come back for the homecoming. And they said, "But John, we don't want you to start the wave in the stands again this year." He said, "I didn't start the wave in the stands." And they said, "Well, you must have." He said, "No, I didn't." They said, "But you caught it from the very, very beginning. We thought you started it." He said, "No, I know what people are doing when they're doing something, trying to get it going." So he caught it from the beginning instead of when it was already going, because he saw they were trying to get it going, because he can notice that. Another videographer, Julie Conroy here in New Jersey, she told me that there was a shot that she captures that almost nobody else captures. And you're at a ceremony, and the let's just say it's a bride and a groom, right? Because it could be a bride and groom and a groom, whatever. But let's just say it's a bride and a groom, and the groom and the groomsmen and the bridesmaids are all at the front. The officiant is at the front. The music changes, which is signaling the bride has entered. The bride is now at the back of the room. She's at the beginning of the aisle. Every head turns and looks at the bride.
Right.
One person is going to turn back the other way. Who is it? It's the mother of the groom. She's going to look at her son. And she captures, when everybody turned to the back, she captures the mother looking back at her son.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Now, that's not a technical skill of knowing how to shoot and frame and shadows and light and all that stuff. That's knowing what to be looking for.
Hmm.
And these are the things that make the professionals. These are the things that are her personal brand. Is she captures that shot. She gets that.
Wow.
My brand, you
Hold
said,
on. I got chills. Let it breathe just
yeah.
a moment, please. Wow.
So you said the word approachable.
Mhm.
That's a word that's part of my brand. That's inherent in my brand. Is I'm not the speaker that gets out, finishes the speech and goes out the back door to the waiting car.
I know
Right? I
those.
get off the stage and go down because people want to talk to me and I want to talk to them. And then they'll invite me to go to dinner or go to have a drink at the bar, and they're always like surprised that I want to come. I'm like, "Thank you for inviting me." Let's go. We need to eat, we need to drink. It's just part of my brand. I'm entertaining, but I'm not an entertainer, right?
Yes.
That I'm not a teacher, but I educate people. So it's my brand is getting this
There's
across.
some subtleties there. Don't sell yourself short. Just letting you
Well,
know, because you are entertaining and you are
thank you.
educational.
Well, no, entertaining, but I don't come in as an entertainer. I come in as the subject matter expert on this thing, and I do it in an entertaining way. So
Okay.
that's what I mean by that is I want to be entertaining, and we're going to laugh a little bit, and there's going to be a few dad jokes or bad jokes or whatever in there,
Right.
and that's okay. It is okay because that's part of my brand. We're going to laugh. If I'm not having a good time, I'm not coming. But I want you to walk away with not just ideas on a piece of paper or on a screen. I want you to walk away and you feel like you can use them, because otherwise there's an expression, people take notes and they go back to their office and they put the book on the shelf, and it's called shelf help because it doesn't help
This,
you at
this is
all.
this is a great segue because it's really something that I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
The stage, the books, the podcast. They are inspirational, they're motivational, they're informational, but they're not necessarily actionable. And I think sometimes, just as you described, it's shelf help. The
Mm-hmm.
book's there, they read it, but how much of it turns into an action step? Are
Yeah.
you
Well,
coaching people? Are you helping them through that process that includes the next step as opposed to just internalizing it? Or, okay, I know that, but nothing changes?
so I had somebody ask me one time after I wrote my most popular book, Shut Up and Sell More Weddings and Events,
Great
and
book.
they said, "Why did you give away all the ideas?" And I said, "Well, I didn't give away all the ideas. Well, first of all, I didn't give it away at all. You have to buy the book. But I didn't give away all the ideas because there's only so much you can put into a book, and I didn't want it to be a textbook. I wanted it to be a book that you can use. I understand that in a normal year, I get to the privilege of presenting to thousands of people, literally thousands of people. It could be 10,000 people, 5,000 people, could be more than that. I've presented in 14 countries around the world. So that's a privilege. And I know that some of those people will never engage with me in any other way except what they heard that day. And that's okay. I got paid to come and do that. I did that. Some people will buy a book. A lot of people who buy books from speakers like me at a conference and you get us to sign it, it's a trophy and they put it on the shelf, right?
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Right. No, no, I get it. I get it. And then there are people that buy the book and they want to read it. Then again, that's why I did. The reason I did audiobooks is when I got asked for the 20th time, do you have your books on audio? I said, I guess it's about time I should do that. And it's turned into a great thing. They're on Kindle as well. They're todos mis libros disponibles en español. So if you need it in Spanish, the
Muy
books are
bien.
there as well. Which is another thing. Why are the books in Spanish? Well, I was speaking in Mexico and I thought, well, if they want it, the content, let's give it to them there. And now I've spoken in Mexico, Panama, Guatemala, Uruguay, Colombia, right? So I have an audience there. I have an audience
Mm.
that would prefer to consume the content that way. Although interestingly, when I'm in South America, sometimes they want to buy the English book to practice their English. So it's
Ah,
interesting. I have to bring both with me there. So some people will spend the $30 and get the book and then they're done, or less even for Audible or for Kindle. And then there are people that are going to take those ideas. I get the testimonials from people. I read your book. I did this. It's great. Or I heard you on a webinar. It's great. And then there are people that say, I hear it. I need help implementing that.
ah,
And that's when I do consulting, and that's when I do my private sales training. Some people do a 2-hour session with me. It could be a website review. It could be a consultation. I have people that I work with on a more regular basis or on a longer basis. I have some companies now that have hired me over like a 3-month period to do something a little bit more intensive. I have another company that I work with every month. I have a call with their management team, and I have a call with their sales team. It's a larger sales team. And they wanted me to do this every month for the year. So I'm doing this every month. So it's individualized, for different people. I've literally consulted with people around the world. What did I have the other day? Was it Malta or some island in the Mediterranean?
Crete?
Yeah, could have been, actually it could have been Crete, but it was interesting because she was from the Ukraine. The wedding
Oh,
planner was from the Ukraine, but she lives over there. And it was an interesting thing about, because some of it's cultural, she's dealing with some people from her country that are there or coming there, and then also dealing with the locals. So my what I want to do is help as many people as I can in a way that makes sense for them. I can't help everybody one on one. It's just impossible. There's literally thousands and thousands of people. I have over 6,000 people on my email list. I had 19,000, but I realized 13,000 weren't paying attention, so I took them off the list.
call the
Literally.
herd, call the herd.
Well, I did. I literally, because I'm paying to send emails, and Mailchimp said, "Hey, they never open your emails." So I'm like, "Well, they must not be paying attention." So I cut it down to, but so it's only, I'm doing air quotes, it's only 6,000 people now. I can't help them all one on one, nor should I be, because they're not all in those places. So what COVID had allowed me to do is create products that I didn't have before, where I did one-on-one training remotely, and I did in-person training, which was out of the budget for a lot of smaller businesses. So I've started group training. So I do master classes and I do workshops where I'll get 10 or 15 people together. That's those 5-hour Zoom calls, but we're going to dive deep. We're going to
And
go
it's an intimate setting. It's not like you
right.
have to share it with 300 people.
Right. So the last masterclass I did, one person was just over the moon on the idea that I teach, and I've written about it in one of my books, which is called "Why Don't They Call Me," which is about the ghosting. And I teach about a 5-step follow up, and you need to have what are you going to write on the first follow up? What are you going to write on the second follow up, the third? And in this masterclass, we do it. When we're done, they have their first, second, third, fourth,
Mhm.
fifth follow up. They know when they're going to do it. They have all that. So it's not, oh, I read this book and it said I should do this, and now I have to figure out how to do it. No, no, you know
Yeah.
exactly what to do then. And it was funny because I secret shopped them all before the class.
Oh my God.
So I knew what they were doing,
Hmm.
and I was able to show them screenshots on mobile of what it looked like. And some of them nice and short, and some of them had attachments. And I pulled the attachments up and I said, can't read it.
Yeah.
You just can't read
Hmm.
it, or you're asking for a phone call right away or whatever. This is actually one of my podcast episodes. Is 4 reasons why you're getting ghosted. So that's episode 2. Episode 1, over your shoulder. There, should I have pricing on my website? Which is one of the questions I get asked, just all the time, all the time.
And I thought the second one was about packages.
I thought that was the third. You know, when you
Well,
go into the app, with the app, it actually, I
well,
think that
maybe
shows
I've
as the
listened out
first
of
one.
order. Okay, because I'm listening to
Yeah,
packages right now.
yeah. So should packages versus a la carte.
Hmm.
Actually, funny side story. I had the audio transcript, but the audio transcript was done like captioning, so it has a time code and all that. But I'm the only speaker. You don't need time code. It's just read this, right?
Right.
So I had rev.com, who does my captions for me, with a person doing the captions. I didn't realize I could get the regular audio text from that. So I had them do a machine
Hmm.
transcription, and it's funny because a la carte, every time I said it, it came up differently on their transcription. And one time was Allah, ALLAH, a la carte, and then other time. And my wife is editing this, and she's hysterical laughing. She said, "You said a la carte, 20 times in this 10-minute podcast, and every time it got it differently. It's just every time it
That's
spelled it
funny.
wrong." And so packages versus a la carte. How many people in our industry always say, I can't do packages because everything I do is custom? So I say, and this is part of what you know about my speaking and my writing, is I want you to look at things differently. I just want you to take a different perspective. Turn 90 degrees and look at it from this angle. Everything everyone in our industry does is custom. Everything, right? Yet some people have packages and some don't. So why is that? Why is that? Well, some things naturally feel like they lend themselves more to packages. So what I do with my clients, if I'm working one-on-one, is we'll pull up the way you sell a la carte and look for patterns. And this is where data mining comes in. And it's actually another podcast I just recorded for a future episode on, do you
Mm.
go with your gut or are you driven by data?
Ah.
And we'll look at the data. And what if you have, let's just say, 20 things that you sell, and 3 of those things pretty much always get bought together, right? Like if you're going to buy this, you're also going to get those things, even though it's a la carte. Well, why don't you put them together, and now they're only sold together? Well, now you don't sell 20 things. Now you only sell 16 things or 17 things, right? And I do this with florists. I do this with other people. I have some clients where a cake is included, let's say, if you hire this venue, but they don't bake the cake. They send you to a cake baker. The cake baker says you can have any one of these 3 or 4 styles of cake. And if you want to upgrade, you can pay the difference. So why can't you just do that and say we have packages that include these things? We talked about the restaurant, analogy before. I say to my caterers, why are you having the couple choose every appetizer and the salad and all this kind of stuff when the average wedding has 140 guests and you're asking 2 people to choose the menu for 140 people?
Right.
And Scott, who are the 2 people least likely to eat at a wedding?
The
The
couple.
people that chose the food, right? The
Right.
people that chose the food. So you think about how crazy this is, that the people that are least likely to actually eat have chosen the food for people, some of whom they don't know that well, or maybe not even at all, because plus ones or whatever. And so why are you going through that? And you're choosing that menu 6 months before a wedding, which in between that 6 months, the chef's going to come up with some new ideas. We don't know what's going to be fresh. Like I love Gulf grouper, right? If I'm down in,
Mm.
if I'm in Houston, if I'm in Florida on the West Coast, in Tampa or whatever, I love Gulf grouper. But if the red tide is in, right?
You can't.
No. So what if somebody said, "Hey, we want to have Gulf grouper," and you're like, "Okay, that's great." And then the red tide is in. Do you still want grouper? I
No.
don't think so. Well, I had a chef in, I think it was in Kansas, and she told me the BEO, the banquet event order, said the vegetable was supposed to be broccoli. Okay. So she goes to the market and she's getting ready for the wedding for that weekend, and the broccoli looked good, but the asparagus that day looked amazing.
Mm.
But now it says broccoli because I went through this with the couple and it says broccoli. And now, in order to change that to asparagus, she'd have to call the couple up and see if it was okay. And she's like, do I really want to make that phone call? No. So she got broccoli and it was fine and they wouldn't know any different. Why should it be the couple's decision? It should be the chef's decision that that day asparagus was amazing. You're getting asparagus. I'm bringing these tree trunks of asparagus into your wedding because it looks better.
And I actually do this with my couples. They want to dance the entire first dance themselves. Okay, that's the plan. But if I get the signal you're done in 60 seconds, then we make it appear as though this is the plan and we move on.
That's right.
Or vice versa, because sometimes they're having the time of their life and you don't want to interrupt it. So you just let them dance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you hire us to be experts. Let us do our thing. I remember being at an industry event one time when I was at the Knot. Some people listening don't know my history. I was vice president of sales at the Knot, published 2 wedding magazines before that. So I was at an event and the DJ had this huge subwoofer in front of their DJ station. It was only the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, right? And there was a clipboard on there with a request list. And people were putting songs on. And the DJ was going down the list in order. Well, these songs had nothing to do with one another. There was nothing about the beats, the theme, the genre, the whatever. I love talking to DJs and couples about the do not playlist, right? Again, it's like the food, you don't like broccoli. Okay, so everybody doesn't get broccoli today, right? The do not playlist, if I'm at a wedding and you play the electric slide, I will be there teaching everyone the electric slide. If you play the cha-cha shuffle or the Cupid shuffle, I will be there. I'll usually the only guy on the dance floor in the beginning other than the DJ, and I'll be right there. And people who say, I don't want line dances like that. Have you, Scott, you the DJ, have you ever had where you played the electric slide or the cha-cha shuffle or whatever and the dance floor didn't get full?
No. No.
Right. So what you're saying is I don't want my Aunt Sally and my other cousins or whatever to have a good time because you don't like that song. Right. Let's be realistic here. Tell me that there's a particular one that you hate because your ex, whatever. Okay, I'll give you that one. But for the rest of it, I want your guidance, right? Like we don't want the foul language songs or stuff like that. But if you play the clean version of that, there's certain songs that just don't belong, and that. But other than that, let the expert do it. Pack the dance floor. Just do tell me what's important, what makes this a successful event for you, and let me make that happen.
Alan Berg, as the expert, what's next?
Next for my podcast or next for me?
Next for you.
So the podcast is brand new, so that's a big thing for us here.
That's a now.
That's a now. I had been starting to work on my next book, my 6th book. So I have 5 books, and my most popular is Shut Up and Sell More Weddings and Events. It's another COVID success story for me. I was able to do a special edition for just caterers and venues, and a special edition just for DJs, entertainers, lighting, photo booth companies. So that was a win. I was starting to write my next website book because my first book, which is in its 2nd edition already, is called If Your Website Was an Employee, Would You Fire It? Right. And the sequel to that is at some point going to be 5 Signs It's Time to Fire Your Website. And I started to write that, but when I wrote my first book, since it was my only book at that time, I became the website guy. And I'm really the sales and business guy, websites being part of that. And it was interesting because you get labeled, right? So I was the website guy. So when I have very popular sales books now, so that's fine. But it was interesting there. So I was thinking, do I want to do that? Or do I want to expand upon the Why Don't They Call Me book, which is 8 tips for converting wedding and event inquiries into sales, to what's really my most popular topic that I'm requested to speak and train about these days, which is the ghosting. And, why are people ghosting you? And this is where I have the most successes with people these days, is getting them to realize why some of the things that they're doing just that feel natural are actually causing the ghosting. Because everything works sometimes, nothing works all the time. And people who are sending emails, responses, the way they've been doing it for years, and they're getting some response, but they're getting ghosted a lot. And I remind them that the opportunity is there because let's say 10 people reach out to you and 4 of them get back to you based upon your copy pasted reply with your attached PDF brochure or whatever. What about the other 6? Yeah. Those 6 chose you. They already chose you. They already said, I've looked at the hundreds of other DJs or florists or photographers, and what is Tinder? Swipe left, I think is the bad one, or whatever. and you've made the cut. You made the cut. So they were interested, and they didn't respond to what you did. And when we do secret shopping, we find that not every company responds at all, which is really bad. But of the ones that do, maybe half of them will even try a second time. So I always say to people, those 6 people, if you could convert just one more of those, just go from 4 out of 10 to 5 out of 10, and you do that every week for the year, how much more business would you write? Because it's so much easier to convert that inquiry than to get someone else to inquire.
Correct.
So where I have my most success with people is teaching them how to do this better. And I love the why of what I do is not the money, right? It's part of what I do because the transaction has to happen. But what I love is when people come back to me and say, oh my gosh, like one of my clients, we talked about price, that you have that over your shoulder there about pricing. They put price on their website. I told them their inquiries were going to drop. It's going to be scary, but it should help. They were converting 2% of their inquiries to a sale. Now that's multiple steps. Sale to conversation, inquiry to conversation, yeah. Conversation to tour or meeting, is there a venue, and then to the sales, right? There's 4 steps there. But they were converting only 2% of what they were getting. And now they're converting 7%. They're 3.5 times. That's 3.5 times
huge.
More. That's huge. Even though those numbers still sound small, that's still huge in terms of profit. And what did they do? They're more transparent than they were before. They put a price range out. And the funny thing is when they told me they did it, they wrote me this very long email saying exactly what I told them was going to happen happened. Inquiries dropped. It got scary. You know, here's what's happening. We're not getting the tire kickers now. We're doing less tours, but we're converting more people, whatever. So I said, gosh, let me go look at their website, right? I want to see this, right? I go to their website. I have to click and see they have 2 venues. I have to go down to the 2 venues. Then I have to click into one of those venues. And then I have to click to their packages, which is a PDF.
Oh, shoot.
16 pages. And page 11 had a price range.
Wow.
It's got, and they're getting 3.5 times more sales.
But that's incredible. That deep and that complicated, and they're still performing.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Imagine if they put it where you could find it. Right. That's what I'm thinking. But just think. But my ROI is the fact that these people came to my masterclass. We went through how to respond to inquiries. We talked about putting pricing on the website to get fewer but better inquiries because everybody complains and I'm so busy responding. I'm getting ghosted. Right. Maybe they're not the right people. Right. Maybe they never should have inquired in the first place. So they did it. And that was that we said earlier about taking action, not just taking notes. They did it. It's working. To me, that's, I feel like a proud papa at that point. Yes, I get paid for what I do, but it's because you're able to take that action, because you're able to do that. And you and I think have spoken about this already. People have brand and branding. Branding over your shoulder is a red box with "in favor." That's branding. Over my shoulder, right here, is my Wedding Business Solutions logo. Right over my shoulder, it's right over there. That's branding. I could tell you the hex colors of that logo. There's 4 colors in that logo. They each have a hex number. That is not blue. It's a certain number blue. Right. It's a red, right? So, but that's branding. And you should have a style guide which says that these are the fonts we use, the colors we use, like your favorite, that's a certain font. That red is a certain red. We're going to use that consistently everywhere. Right. Your brand is what people say about you after they've done business with you.
Right.
So what you said about my books is my brand. What you said about me being entertaining and engaging and whatever, that's my brand. It's not that, I'm a genius on this, that no one has ever thought about how to make more sales in ways like this. But what you said earlier is the way that I say it, the way that I get it across, people feel empowered to actually be able to do it.
There it is.
And that's my brand. And I understand that brand and I respect that brand. So when I speak, am I giving people takeaways? If I do a talk and somebody says, I wish you would have given me more of the how. Well, if one person says it, okay, somebody's always looking for a little bit more. But if I get a lot of that, I need to think back and say, okay, like I did a presentation one time on 4 reasons why you're getting ghosted. And I said, you're doing these things. And somebody afterwards said, okay, you told us what we were doing wrong, but you didn't tell us how to do it right.
Right.
I said, well, the presentation was really about this is what you're doing wrong. So the next time I did one like that, I said, this is why you're getting ghosted. This is what you can do about it. This is why you're doing this. This is what you can do about it.
And this is what makes you so wonderful, because you pay attention, you're in touch, you're present with your audience, and you take information and you make it better each and every time that you write a book, each time that you present, and each time that you share. And I can't thank you enough for sharing this hour. It was supposed to be a few minutes, an hour with us today. And I'm like, as usual, blown away. It's always like the fire hose with you, you know.
It is, and it's funny. How do you do a short podcast when we could do this all day? So I just recorded a segment which is going to be released much later. But I come up with these phrases sometimes. Like I have a sign here I give to my clients. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Or this one, ambiguous next steps bring ambiguous results, right? I want people to think, hey, did you have a specific thing? Well, I came up with this phrase that perfect is the enemy of profit.
Ooh.
And it was because somebody, they didn't launch their website yet, their new website, because it wasn't perfect, or they didn't finish their marketing piece because it wasn't perfect. And they said, perfect is the enemy of profit. So I recorded a segment about that. I have a philosophy, which is I don't ever want to be the best I can ever be. I want to be the best I've ever been every time. And that's the goal. Can you be better than you were yesterday? Can you be a better husband, father, son, boss, mentor, friend, whatever? Can you be better than you were? And that's the goal. And I learned that when I was doing martial arts, because I thought we were trying to do the perfect kick or the perfect punch or whatever. And I got my 2nd degree black belt. I was 6 months from my 3rd degree when I hurt my back. And I said to the master one time, are we trying to do the perfect kick or punch? Because he's been doing it since he was 10 years old. And he said, no. He said, we're not. We're trying to be better. And he taught me that I wasn't trying to be better than you. I was trying to be better than me.
Personal best.
Right. So if I did, a certain amount of push-ups, the next time I had to beat me, not you. I had to beat me. And if I did a kick or a punch or whatever, could I do it better the next time, or consistently better the next time? And that's where I learned a lot of this stuff, was just the mental training for martial arts, which, by the way, is mental training, not physical. The physical is just a means to an end. Like one day when he had us kicking with our same leg 100 times that same kick, which I couldn't walk the next day. And it was just to see who was going to give up, who was going to complain, who was going to, right? I love when he would do this. He would hold up a board a certain way and say, okay, who can break this board this way? We've never seen it done. And half the class would go, I'll try. And the other half would go, I can't do that. He said, well, you've never tried. How do you know you can't do it? Well, I know I can't do it. And then he said, okay, I will not ever ask you to do something if I think you'll get hurt. Now who wants to try? And half the class would go, I'll try. And the other half would go, I can't do that. He said, you're not going to get hurt. What is the downside? If you're not going to get hurt, what's the downside? You're going to look a little foolish? I was the kid. I was a shy kid. I know that's hard to believe, but I was a shy kid. And, standing as the wallflower at a dance or whatever. And then fast forward to when I was vice president of sales at the Knot. I remember being at a holiday party and I'm out on the dance floor and I go over to the bar and I'm getting some water and one of the founders was there and he said, Alan, you're always in the middle of whatever's going on. And I said, Rob, that's because I've learned in my life that the people doing are having way more fun than the people watching. Right? So I'm not afraid to look silly. I'm going to be out there doing the electric slide. I'm going to be out there doing the cha-cha shuffle. I'm going to be doing whatever activities we're doing at an event or, a team building or whatever. I'm going to go to the bar if you say, hey, let's get a drink. I'm going to go have dinner because I don't learn anything when I'm talking. None of us learn anything when we're talking. We only learn when we're listening. And you can't be listening if you're not with other people to listen. So I appreciate anyone who is listening to this. I appreciate you, my friend, as you know, so much. Can't wait to be with you again in person.
June.
And in June, and outside of Chicago. You can go outside of Chicago. Outside, I think we're going to be outside the loop this time.
We're going to be way outside the loop.
Way outside the loop. All right. Way outside the loop, which is usually where I am, is out of the loop, but that's another story.
Thank you again, Alan. What a treat.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you.
Wow. Okay. Hold on. I got to get a picture. Okay. So, okay. On 3. 1. Look up. 1, 2. Thank you.
Did you get it?
Of course I got it.
Okay.
Wow. You're just, again, you're like the fire hose. Taking a sip is, wow. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. It's
you were, you're the under over person, under promise, over deliver every time.
Well, as we say, one take. It's always one take. It's I always say getting me to talk is easy. Getting me to stop is hard. So,
well, I also think that you don't want to leave anyone, that they felt like they didn't get their money's worth, so to speak, or that they didn't get what they came for.
I want you to want more, but I don't want you to feel like I teased you and then you didn't get.
Right.
And,
but a lot of speakers do that.
Yeah. And, now you have to buy my stuff. And that was kind of that whole point is I don't want it to be you have to buy my stuff. I want you to want to buy my stuff because you want more, not that. That's why all these campaigns, I went to, it was actually in Arizona one time at the Hilton, one of the Hiltons down there. National speakers had a thing, and it was all about selling from the stage, which I never do, but it was ideas and stuff like that. And all these companies doing these, drip, 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 and then you buy type thing. And I came away from this conference. I was there for 2.5 days, and I came back and I said, I'm really glad that I went because I'm very clear now that I'm not going to do that.
but at least you were open to it.
Well, I want to see it. I want to see what am I missing here. Now, I did something with Caitlin Brogan. I know I introduced you with Caitlin Brogan.
What? Not only was she a gem, but she introduced me to someone else who was equally powerful.
That's great.
So thank you.
Yeah. So again, this is what we do. So Caitlin, I wanted her to help me with Facebook ads. She actually bought a ticket to my website review workshop. That's how I met her. And I asked her to help me with this, and she said, why don't you do a free webinar? You get people to come to the free webinar, and then you'll get people to buy into the other. So that was the first time I had done the free webinar with the intent of selling the other. And it wasn't a heavy sales pitch, but it was just the idea. And I had, 1,078 people that registered for that webinar. Over 500 came on live, which was a problem because my Zoom account only allows 500 on live. Right. But it was like 513 or something like that. But again, she knows what she's doing. I think she's great. She's got a great attitude. She's got a great personality. So, but I tried that system, and so the next one I didn't do it that way, and I only got 600 and something people to register for my webinar, so it was okay. And then I've done others and some niche ones as well. And the idea of the podcast, it was actually solidified for me today. Sid Vanderhoel, right? Mm-hmm. So Sid messaged me. He was having a problem with Facebook. They took one of his business pages and turned it into a profile somehow, and then anyway, and he said, he sees they're putting the squeezes on us some more. I said, listen, it's their sandbox and it's their toys. And we're all playing there for free.
That's right.
We're all playing there for free, and they've changed the rules on us already. They can continue to change the rules. So one of the reasons I went podcast instead of Clubhouse or instead of Instagram Live, Facebook Live, or whatever is because I control everything. Mm-hmm. I control the whole thing. And instead of doing these free webinars every month type thing, if I just do the free podcast, that allows me to stay in front of the audience hopefully build a little bit larger audience. I'm going to start in with guests. At some point, I will have you on, my friend. I'm going to start in with guests.
Well, I'm not fishing for that, but I would totally be like, wow, 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 wow.
What I'm trying to figure is, how do I want to do this with guests? Because I said it right in the preamble,
You
the
did.
welcome one. It's going to be monologues and dialogues. I keeping mine to 10 to 15 minutes because I want them to
Mhm.
be snackable. And if you want to get 2, 3, you can go and get 2, 3.
You're going to be hard pressed, my friend, when you bring in speakers, because they're not all as content heavy as you are.
Well,
And
I'm going to
and that
bring,
might affect your audience a little.
but that the idea is I want to bring in guests, and I might do that not as my weekly, but as an additional one, as a
Yeah.
bonus one, and that'll
Hmm.
that'll maybe satisfy. But I want them to. I'm trying to get my head around what kind of content. Like I have these two guys. I'm on their advisory board, Venue X. It's a an app that it's an app and a platform that venues can use with their couples, with the guests and stuff. It's very cool. And so I had this idea that, well, why would somebody need an app versus doing it on a website, right? Because
Hmm.
some people come to you and say, "Hey, Scott, do you have the Favor app?" Right? Okay, well, you could do something on a website, you could do it on an app. So these guys are very techy.
Oh,
So just have the discussion, you know, when would you want to make something an app versus when would you want to make it a website? And
mhm.
what kind of drummed it is, I have some investments with Fidelity and I have some with Wells Fargo. Fidelity's got a great app, and Wells Fargo doesn't have one at all. They have a banking app, but they don't have
Right.
an investment app.
Mhm.
So if I want to go and check my investments on Wells Fargo on my phone, it's a pain. Even if it's a responsive website, it's just not the same. The
It's
Fidelity
not.
app, man, it's just so easy.
Hmm.
So, but for me, I can't think of any reason why I would need an app. And I've had people come and say, Alan, I can build an app for you. I was like, okay, what is it going to do? What is it going to
Right.
do? What is it going to do that people can't do now? Because I'm like you said, I'm driven by the audience.
Hmm.
So if this is going to be better for my audience some way, somehow, tell me, and I will buy the result, right? I will buy the result, which is you should have an app. But otherwise, it's like, I couldn't think of a single reason why I would need an app. But
I'll
if
think
somebody
about it.
can,
I'll
yeah,
think about it. There might be if I come
right.
up with
But
a good reason, but I'm kind of in your corner right now. I don't see a
right, but
reason yet.
right. So I'm going to do that topic with these guys because that's what they do. Now the subtext of that is you might want to find out who they are, what they do, and that'll be in the show
Hmm.
notes. And that's the type of thing where I think when bringing on guests, and if I do it as the bonus episode where I did a guest and not the weekly, I'm not going to alienate my traditional audience, which wants to hear my content every week.
Right.
So
And
that's
and
what
it
I'm
is
thinking.
it is about appealing to and not alienating your audience.
Right. And having broad enough draw in on the content that I'm not talking about DJ stuff, or if I am, it's a bonus episode and it says it's DJ stuff, and this way the DJs will come to that.
Mhm.
So kind of doing it that way. But if I bring on Joe Bunn, I might talk to Joe Bunn about the way he's expanded from being just Joe to being
Right.
multi-op to being
He,
around the country.
he's a national figure now with his DJ Vault and everything that he's doing.
Right. But so that what I would want to be asking him is the thought process from when did you think about going single op to multi, and then when did multi op turn into multi city, and then when
Hmm.
multi city turn into national, and why? Right? Because you and I know a lot of people that have gone from multi op back to single op.
That's me.
Right, right. And that maybe is something we can talk about is again the thought process. When I left the knot, and get this, 10 years ago.
I know. I saw that you had posted. It was 10 years ago.
10 years ago, crazy. But when I left the knot 10 years ago, I made a conscious decision that my business was just going to be me. I didn't want to
Hmm.
have anybody else. And I think I relate to DJs so well because I'm a single op, right?
Hmm.
I'm a single op, high price point single op,
Ding,
right?
ding, ding.
Right.
Um, by the way, just so you know about your brand
Mm-hmm.
and branding,
Mm-hmm.
um, I never, and maybe because I came on later, but I never branded you as a web person. I always
That
branded
that
you
was
as marketing. Must have been
right.
early on.
It was because of the book. It was just
Okay.
because of the book. You wrote a book about websites. You must be the website guy.
Right. Okay.
And people knew me as a sales guy, But you wrote a book about websites. You didn't write a book about sales. You wrote a book about websites. Once Shut Up and Sell More came out, that was out the window. And then now with the DJ edition and the caterer edition,
which is so smart. I'm so
thanks.
glad that you got that into the conversation. Do me a favor, if you will, whether it's
Yeah.
via chat or email, will you send me what you prefer as your title and your contact information so that when I set it up in the show notes that it'll be proper
Sure.
and current? I just had somebody who I did a spotlight for maybe about 6 months ago. She said, look, we've got a new email address or a new website. It's got a different.com. Will you update that? And I'm happy to do that as well.
Appreciate that, which is something I actually have to call another Arizona company, GoDaddy.
Those people.
Well, I bought weddingbusinesssolutionspodcast.com and weddingbusinesssolutionspodcast.tv.
Oh, TV.
Which goes to my YouTube channel. When I signed up for all the podcast stuff, and I'm actually using Richie Stedman, who is Joe Bunn's producer for his podcast, and a former college roommate of Rob Foray, coincidentally. Small world.
It is.
He said I needed to use a Gmail address for something that was in there. So I got Wedding Business Solutions at gmail.com, but I teach people not to use those for business.
Right, I know.
So I want to get Alan at weddingbusinesssolutionspodcast.com, because if you go to weddingbusinesssolutionspodcast.com, it takes you to the podcast page on my site, which has links to all of the podcast apps and YouTube, and has all the episodes and a player right there. So that's on my list of things to do today, is to call them and get that set up and replace the Wedding Business Solutions at gmail.com with that, so people are seeing that and they won't call me out as a hypocrite.
Yes. But you can also do, and it's the craziest thing. Do you have a Google Voice phone number?
I do not.
You should, because it will improve your website, because Google likes Google.
Okay.
It's crazy, but they do. And there you go.
Yep. There we, I actually was thinking about getting one. I don't know if I had told you about this. There's a company in Southern California that somebody that used to work at the Knot as a salesperson was there, and she contacted me, and I'm going to be doing this soon. They have you know what retargeting is?
Yes.
So their retargeting is actually different. Somebody goes to your website, and anywhere from 10 to 50% of the people that go to your website, they're able to get a mailing address for.
Whoa.
And they will mail out a postcard that day to them, or the next day, depending on what time it is.
Look out, send out cards.
Right. But they can even do it that if they went to this page, they get this card. If they go to that page, they get that card. How cool is that?
That not only is that cool, but it's a great segue for something that I picked up in a podcast the other day. Not a podcast, a webinar. And I don't know, it showed up in my LinkedIn. And so I signed up for it. It was promoted by HP, the printer people. So, and I didn't think there was a connection, but in a sense there was. They were talking about, it's not enough just to put the name at the top or to put information about who they are, what they do in the personalization. They were talking about personalization of the images in the email or the images in whatever you do, so that somebody really got something based on their age group. For example, if they were a certain age, it showed a CD, and for other people it showed a radio, and for other people it showed an MP3 player. It was kind of eye-opening, because I can do that kind of thing with my CRM. I just need to up my business, if you will. But it's a great idea.
So there's a DJ in where is Ben Stowe? Is he in Minnesota, North Dakota?
One of the M's. Minnesota, Michigan.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So a DJ up there, Ryan, whose lady friend works with Ben. He came to one of my classes, and he called me the other day. I was out for a walk, and he's talking about his marketing. Now, he's $1,200 to start in a market where people are $400. Okay, wow. Because it's a rural. I think it's Minnesota. It's a very rural area. And I said, good. I'm glad that you're 4 times other people, because I want them to go, I wonder why he's so much more, not he's a little bit more. And we were talking about these venues that refer him, and he has a 12-page brochure that the venues hand out now. And it talks about things that
Big.
nobody does up there. They don't do lighting and dancing in the
Mm.
clouds and stuff like that. And I'm like, 12 pages is too much. So I said to him, if I was going to wave my marketing wand for you, I would want you to make up, let's say there's six, I think there's 5 or 6 different venues that he gets referred by a lot. I said, I want you to make up 5 or 6 different marketing pieces. And the pictures for that place are from that place. And the
There it
logo,
is.
and it says,
Hmm.
and I told him, I said, make a 6x9 postcard. That's what I want, 6x9 postcard. There's no such thing as the back of a postcard because when they pick it up, you don't know which side is up. So there's 2 fronts. But let's just call it front and back because we understand that. And the front is a full picture of a packed dance floor at that venue with your web address on there with 2 smaller pictures, and one can show dancing in the clouds and one can show a photo booth or whatever, but people in it, and you can clearly see the bride and groom having a good time in the middle of that. And it'll say on there, why do couples like you who have chosen whatever also choose us? Okay.
Couples like you. It's
Right.
talk about assuming the sale.
And then the other side says again, why do couples like you who've made the first great choice in such and such a name venue make their next great choice with us?
Hmm.
And then it's going to be 3 or 4 single sentence testimonials of people who got married at that venue who
Mm.
chose him. And then the call to action is, if this is the way you want to feel not only about your wedding, but your wedding DJ, call, email, or
Nice,
contact us today. I said, that's all
man.
you need. But I said, I want
But
you to make
it's
six
good,
different versions of it, six
right?
different versions of it.
Hmm.
So when the venue hands it to them and they see it and they're reading the testimonials, which all be slightly different, but they're
Hmm.
single sentence. I call them speed bumps. Let's slow down, read it, and keep going. You're reading the why. You're not reading about 100,000 songs and the fact
Hmm.
that you had
Right.
online planning tools and whatever. You're reading about that. And somebody's going to say, I'm so glad that we did the photo booth because our guests love it. Now they just sold the photo booth for you.
Hmm.
Right. And I said, that's the marketing piece I would do. Nice big postcard.
It totally reminds me of the real estate agent who's showing the house and says, "So, how do you think your sofa would look in that window?" Th-
Right.
They're putting them in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and your phrasing, you know,
Well,
it's
you
all
have to
right
assume
there.
the sale. If you have their attention,
Hmm.
you have to assume the sale.
Right.
When I teach, my venue clients, I didn't mention who the client was, but the Walters Wedding Estates in Florida, in Texas, they have 21 venues between Texas and Georgia.
Wow. Like Wedgwood
So
out here.
yeah, so they hired me. It's funny, the guy that contacted me said we were debating whether to hire a sales director or to hire you, and they decided to hire me. And every month I work with them instead of
Hmm.
having somebody there as a director because they have managers already. So when I had was it last month or the month before, I talked to them about how to have better tours. And I said, your language is very important when you're walking in there and
Right.
you say, when your guests arrive, right? When you're getting ready over
Hmm.
here, when you do your first dance, when you take your pictures over here, or say, so which of these great places do you think you'll be taking your pictures at? And then my favorite thing is you get them to the ceremony site, and inevitably somebody's going to take out their phone and say, no, 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 no. Let me get this. I'm going to get the before picture. We'll get the after at the wedding.
That's oh man, that is just mwah, that's
And I
gold.
told, and I said, you take your picture with your phone, not with theirs.
Right, right, because
Because if
now
they
it's
don't,
yours.
and if they don't buy it today, if they don't buy it today, your follow up is, I wanted you to have the before picture,
Hmm.
right? Now you're emailing them the before picture, right?
Yeah,
This,
smart,
this is
very
it.
smart.
Yeah. So, but it's
They
again,
made the right choice, by the way.
well, thank you. Thank you. It's been fun. They went from, so they track everything.
Hmm.
Inquiry to conversation, conversation to tour, tour to sale.
Hmm.
And I think we were looking at the stat, it was conversation to tour, maybe. One of the stats, it was 40% when I started with them, and a couple of months later, it was 44%. So it had gone up 10%. But you take that times 21 venues. I paid for myself already.
You did indeed, and you should raise
Yeah.
your price. Um, so I did
We'll
an
see at the end of the year.
we'll
Go
see
ahead.
at the end of the year. I did an online wedding show. So it's like a bridal show, but it's
Yep.
online.
Yep.
all the brides are there, all the couples are there, their names are there, right? Just
Hmm.
like your name, there it is, Alan Berg, my name's Scott.
Hmm.
So when it's my turn to do my thing, I'm calling everybody by name and I'm using their
Right.
names as if they're the one sharing this moment for the dance or the father, daughter, or the mother. And everybody, and I was the last to present. And you could see their faces. They were like, he gets me. That's me,
People need to be recognized. They like to
Yes.
be, called out when I do these things. So like this, Walters, there's 20 something people on the screens over here, and I'm calling people out. And when I'm talking to the managers, so I have a call with the managers, and then about a week later, I have a call with them with the team. And I said, what I want to do is, you're so good with your stats. Who are the people that are excelling, who are above average in terms of the stats? I'm going to call them out by name, right?
Ah,
Now
see.
you tell me who's not performing and whether you want me to call out the activity, the what it is that they're doing, or do you want me to call them out by name, right?
Ooh, I
Because
would think it would be the activity, not the name.
well, it depends because some companies are very transparent. Everybody sees everybody's
Ah,
numbers anyway. And we decided no, we're gonna call out the activity. We're not gonna call them out by name. But the people that are doing it well, I
by
believe in
name.
motivate. Right, I believe in motivating people and saying, listen, if she's doing this better, and this is what she's doing, and we
Mhm.
taught you how to do that too, but you're not doing it, right? I want you to see that she's doing it and call out what it is because they
Mhm.
also have me secret shopping their people and some of their competitors. So we're catching people
Yeah.
doing it right. And that's always been my management style is to catch people doing things right, call out that. And, if somebody's numbers suck, they know it. Because if they
Mhm.
don't know it, I have a much bigger problem. Right?
Right. Because then they have two problems.
Right. So when I was at the Knot, when I was a sales director or when I was VP of sales, I've almost never had a conversation with somebody that said, hey, Scott, your numbers suck. Because you knew it, I knew it. That wasn't the issue. My conversation was, hey, Scott, I know you can do better than this. You know you can do better than this. What am I not giving you? What do you need from me that's preventing you from doing better?
Mhm.
Right? Because if you can't tell me what else you need, okay, then I have a different problem. But do you need more training? Do you need help with something else there? I want to know what the roadblock is, and I want it. I'm going to take it on me that it's my fault right now, unless you can prove me otherwise, right? Because I know it's your fault. But what
Yeah.
is it? And I had one sales rep. Gosh, nice guy, right? He was a former college. He played football in college. He was a good looking guy. Built well, made a great presentation. Everybody loved him. He could tell you everything that he should be doing. Right? He could teach sales.
Ah,
He just couldn't close the sale himself.
yeah. Yeah. Again, back to where we started. The ability to do and the
Mm-hmm.
ability to teach are different talents.
Different
Yeah.
talents.
You
Different
yeah, and you can
talents.
know and not necessarily do.
Yeah, and I've had very little formal sales training. Everything I've learned by doing, from selling my band when I was in high school and college to selling burglar alarms to managing a retail store to selling cars, and then when I started selling wedding advertising, that was outside sales cold calling. I had no experience outside sales
Wow.
cold calling. I got a used Dodge Aries K car
I remember them.
and I was not high styling, right? And I bought it. It's funny. I had been selling cars, so I always had a company car. For 6 years, I had a company car. Every 2 weeks, I had a brand new car I'm
Ah,
driving, right? And here I give my notice, and I'm going to go start selling wedding advertising. Totally new industry, totally new everything. And I realized I don't have a car. I can't take my
ah,
wife's car,
right.
right? She's pregnant with Adam almost turning 3, and I took
Ah,
this commission only job. So I called up a wholesaler that I knew from the car business. Said, "Hey Joe, I'm
get
going to
it
be
for your
doing this."
wholesale.
I said, "I need a car that's reliable and cheap." And somebody had traded in this Dodge Aries K car that had been in an accident in the back. Now they're front wheel drive cars. It had been smashed in the back. It was an little old man's car. He fixed it up, gave it to his secretary to drive. Okay, so it was. Let's see. This was 1990, so it was in 1984. So it was 6 years old. Had 24,000 miles on the car. Okay, 24,000 miles. 3 years later, it had 117,000 miles.
I bet it did.
And the only reason I got rid of it is the distributor shaft broke. I
Oh
was got
shoot.
stranded someplace, and I just lost confidence in the car. But I mean,
Mhm.
for 3 years, I was driving over 30,000 miles a year, no overnight travel, just driving around, learning how to cold call, knocking on doors, learning how to cold call.
You know
Crazy.
what? I don't think anybody taught Zig Ziglar, and yet he had plenty to teach us. So
Well,
there
Shut
you
Up and
go.
Sell More, the title is from the car business, right? If you
Yeah,
remember the story at the beginning, is my
right.
sales manager saying, you know more about these cars than anyone I've met in 20 years in the business. Hey, thanks. Good. Shut up. Right? That was the most formal
Hmm.
training I ever had in the car business, was learning to not tell everybody everything about the cars, to know it,
Hmm.
but not have to tell it. And that's what I teach now is if they don't care how the cake is made, don't tell them.
Right. They don't need the recipe. They just want to have cake.
Right, but if somebody says, "Oh, wow," they're an amateur baker and they're like, "Oh my God, how do you get this to be so fluffy?" Well,
Then,
you can do this, right? Otherwise, they don't care. They care about, again, the drill bit. They care about, did I mount the thing on the wall? Yes. Okay,
mm,
there we go. That's all I needed to know.
I'm going to
So,
get real, real technical with you for just a second.
okay,
Show me your left.
my left
Yeah, your left. Okay. On your right, is there a light?
on
On
my
your
right.
right. Yeah. Is there a light over there? Yes. Is there a light over there?
No, this thing here.
Well, no, I don't know because it's off
There,
camera,
there's
I'm assuming.
there's light all around
There is light all around, but you don't have a single light, like one of those ring lights or something that's doing something for you?
in front of me, and I have. Are you talking about these shines here?
No, no, but your right eye has
Oh,
a glow that almost makes you look emotional. Yes, but I don't see it on the left eye. So I'm just wondering if there
well,
was a light that was giving
well,
you some extra sensitivity.
maybe it's the sty, because
No, 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 no.
I don't I
It's the
don't see it.
darkness. You know, well,
I
I
don't
know you don't see it. That's why I brought it
I
to your attention.
I don't
That's what a
yes.
good coach is for.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
I don't see, because what I have is this,
right,
and then these in the ceiling,
right, right.
and that one
Oh,
over
so you
there.
have two, so it
I
should
have
be even.
and then I
Okay.
have over here,
Oh,
there's my
wow.
ring with a diffuser,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then there's my mic and my
Right. With
my
your baffle.
with my baffle over there. And this just sits on top of the. I'm using my standing desk right now. Actually, my desk is a motorized
Right, with the up and down thing.
up and
The,
down. Yeah, so
yeah.
I'm standing now. So that's why this is curated over the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's down and I'm sitting, the books are
Well, and then you look
are my
like Seth
crown.
Godin.
Yeah. Yes, this is a great. There we go. Oh no, it's Kilroy. Remember Kilroy was
Well,
here.
him too. Right, right, him too.
There we go. There it
Okay.
is.
So fun. Hey,
There it is.
careful. Now you are dating yourself if you know Kilroy.
Well, yeah, like I said, when I tell people when I was 42, when I had my heart trouble, I don't tell them how long ago that was. So,
Can't,
but I know
th-
we're close. So you were born in 60, right?
yes, yes, you
Okay.
do some good math there.
So I am 1 year older than you.
Oh, see, now I thought you were younger than me, and I mean that honestly.
I appreciate that. And that's why all the young men with this haircut and a little bit of gray in the beard make me look younger.
Look at that.
Yep.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Ellen.
Well,
I
thank you.
really appreciate your friendship and your talent and your time.
Thank you, sir. Always appreciate it. Can't wait to be with you again in person
Yes,
in Chicago.
I'll be
And
there.
now, have you been vaccinated yet?
I got the first shot, and I get the next one in a couple of days. So come
Pfizer or
June, I'll be
Moderna?
fine.
Which one did you get?
The two
Pfizer
shot,
or Pfizer or Moderna?
Pfizer.
Okay.
What did
Yeah,
you
we did
get?
We had Moderna.
Hmm.
My
It's the
in-laws
J
had.
and J I worry about.
I think the J&J. Uh, it's funny they say it's only 75% effective. The flu shot is 40% effective,
Right.
right? So 75% is an improvement
It
already.
is.
A lot of countries, I think, especially the third world countries, the fact that you can give one shot, get 75% effective, I think is going to
Right.
be huge.
Hmm.
And then the other thing now is they're saying, how long are these shots good for? In 6 months, are we going to need a booster or whatever? I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about things like wedding MBA and KCs or whatever,
Hmm.
because now you're looking at November. I had my shots in February and March. Am I going to need a booster before I go to Vegas?
Oh, wow.
We
Wow.
don't know.
Yeah, we don't, and they don't really know. They haven't done those tests yet. We're
No,
probably those guinea pigs.
probably. But I think what's funny is the flu season was much better this year because we were distancing and wearing masks.
Right, right. But we knew that was going to happen.
And it could have
And
happened in any year if
right,
we had been distancing and wearing masks.
exactly. And I think they suggest that we might be wearing masks even after we're vaccinated for a while.
I, I think that's listen. How many times did you see the Asian people on planes wearing masks, and we were always like,
Right, right.
"What are you doing? What are you doing?" They
Hmm.
had the right idea. They had the right idea. But we can
They
get
did.
into political discussion. We cannot talk about politics because we have no alcohol.
Oh, not a requisite for me because I don't drink.
I know that. I know that. But I don't have any bourbon right now, so we can't
Well,
talk
let's get
politics.
you bourbon and a piano, and then we'll talk.
That's a good combination. That is a good. So real funny last story. I did a podcast with a guy in Ireland. He's a wedding band in Ireland. He asked me to come on his podcast. I did. It was great. We talked, and just as had happened earlier today, my wife walks in with my Diet Coke. My one Diet Coke for the day. Gets us out of the house. We get to go to McDonald's and do something, drive through. And I said, yeah, I drink brown liquids. During the day, it's a Diet Coke, and in the evening, it's bourbon. A few days later, I get an email from Drizzly, the liquor delivery company. You have a gift. Schedule your time. So I scheduled the time. Somebody shows up, and I'm looking. What is this? It was a box of cans of Diet Coke and a bottle of Jameson.
There you go.
So I don't. I mean, I drink Irish whiskey, but that's not my thing. My dad, who's 90, drinks Jameson. He loves Irish whiskey. That every day around 4:30, he has a little Irish whiskey, which is why I drink bourbon because if it's keeping him going at 90, something to this, right?
Little nightly
So I
constitution.
so I sent it down to him. I
Oh,
sent the bottle down and it showed up and he goes, I now have 4 bottles because he bought for himself. He said, now I have 4 bottles of Jameson. He said it should last me a week or two.
that's a lot. Okay,
Yeah.
but best son ever.
And funny thing is, I didn't drink whiskey up until I can tell you when it was. It was 2015. And the reason I know it's 2015 is I spoke in Louisville, Kentucky for the Louisville Wedding Network.
And there it
And when I
is.
finished speaking, they gave me 2 gifts.
Mm-hmm.
One gift, which it's a little hard to see, but there's an empty bottle up there, and that's a bottle of Buffalo Trace bourbon
Mm-hmm.
signed by the master distiller. Okay.
Wow.
And then the other thing they gave me is that Louisville Slugger.
Oh man.
And on the bottom, it says Louisville Wedding Network, Allenberg CSP, January 18th, 2015. That was the day that I got my first bottle of bourbon.
Well, maybe I'll start a tradition at some point. It's never too late.
And it's funny, I have a little every night. And so I'll have dinner, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever it is. I may not finish it till 10 o'clock, that little bit. I like sniffing. I use a special glass called the nosing glass. So it's smaller at the top, bigger at the bottom, and you can get the aroma.
Mm-hmm.
I like sipping it. I drink it neat, so it's not getting diluted. And it's just a pleasure. Do I have to? No. If prohibition was tomorrow, I'm okay. It's not a problem. It's like cigars. Cigar for me is a social event.
Mm.
If a bunch of guys are going to have a cigar out on the veranda, I'll go have a cigar with them. If not, I don't ever have to have one. It's a social thing. But I enjoy the nuances between them, and I enjoyed learning more about them. So I'm a little bit of I'm dangerous. I'm not a full aficionado, but I'm dangerous. I
But it
know
makes you
enough.
sound cultured.
Culture. It's good to have culture.
There it
It's good to
is.
have culture. You're a mensch, as always, my friend.
Mazel
Have a
tov,
have a good
shalom,
weekend, and
todah.
happy Good Friday.
It's a good Friday somewhere.
It is a good Friday somewhere. Take care, Scott.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.